MSNBC, Rachael Maddow, is always trying to get society to rage, come together, coalesce around the Democratic Party, and come after Donald Trump and the decisions that are made in the administration to make points about errors in judgment and in direction and in, do we have a government or not? Now it's like the Democrats did against Donald Trump. Now it's the Rachael Maddow, MSNBC, coming against Donald Trump and any idiosyncrasies that he appears to have in his administration, when I know and you know, folks, that he's trying to help America be great again. Make America be great again. Rachael Maddow, if I had a Department of Justice, I would take you off the air. Your ratings stink anyway. Goodbye, Rachael Maddow.
In the inexplicable, unlawyered, clumsy language of this two-page order to stop all federal funding. That order directed, for example, that the Green New Deal funding must stop. The Green New Deal is a years-old piece of proposed legislation that never actually passed.
I am so fed up with how stupid the Green New Deal is. And now we're going to take and listen to just a small comment from AOC.
Today is also the day that we choose to assert ourselves as a global leader in transitioning to 100% renewable energy and charting that path.
There were 338 parts per million of atmospheric carbon dioxide in the world. In 1989, that's 10 years later, it's also the birth year of the congresswoman who represents this very district. It was up to 355 parts per million. And as of 2017, it was 405 parts per million. What do those numbers mean? We'll put it this way. That 405 parts per million is the highest in recorded history in ice core records, dating all the way back 800,000 years. How did you get your politics? Why do you have the politics you have?
You know, for me, I think that my politics is just an emergence of my life experience, and it's a reflection of all of our experiences here, not just in the Bronx, but as working people. And all of a sudden, overnight, I was the daughter of a single mom with a younger brother, and we had to work our way through that situation. We're on the brink of foreclosure. Our home was about to be taken away. I started working in restaurants, being shoulder to shoulder with undocumented busboys and chefs, with children, people my age that were basically in the same exact situations.
First big issue you're doing is a Green New Deal.
That's right.
So why this issue, front and center, first thing? What connects you to this?
So this issue is not just about our climate. First and foremost, we need to save ourselves, period. There will be no future for the Bronx. There will be no livable future for generations coming for any part of this country in a way that is better than the lot that we have today if we don't address this issue urgently and on the scale of the problem. But how I access this issue is that I started looking at all of our problems. We have runaway income inequality. We are at one of our most unequal points, economically speaking. And my father also passed away from lung cancer.
Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, I am very sorry that your father passed away from lung cancer. I've got a lung disease myself, and I'm scheduled to only live for about 3 more years before I pass away. And I know it's coming. I'm sorry that your dad had to pass away, but what does all this communication that you just shared with us have to do with the Green New Deal? Thank you, AOC, for your comments and your thoughts. And now let's go back to Rachael Maddow from MSNBC. Or is it MSDNC? She sounds like she speaks clear, but she's really arrogant, and she's trying to create rage in anybody who watches her programming to make Trump look like a liar. That's her job, I think. Now what are we going to do, folks? We realize what she's up to. Now we've got to make the firm decision not to accept her BS.
As members of Congress and governors and former government officials and members of the press started putting it together, started circulating lists of all the things that this Trump order was shutting down, the White House themselves appeared to be fairly bewildered by the news that this was, in fact, the stuff that they were shutting down. Like, really? We're shutting down veterans' homeless shelters? We are? We're shutting down meat and poultry inspections? We are? We're shutting down school breakfasts, school lunches. We're shutting down home heating assistance. It's January 28th. We're shutting down housing assistance, including rent vouchers, which is how people pay their rent. First of the month when the rent is due is Saturday. We're shutting down food stamps. The SNAP program, millions and millions and millions of Trump voting Americans get SNAP. Millions of Americans of all stripes. The WIC program, that's food specifically for pregnant and postpartum women and their infants. Childcare, Head Start, suicide hotlines, child abuse investigations, supporting law enforcement, rape crisis centers. Medicaid, which is health insurance for millions of Americans, including especially disabled people, old people, and, oh, by the way, it covers 40% of all births in America. And this isn't stuff that they were like proposing to not reauthorize or like asking Congress to cut. They said that money was cut off as of today. And after the Trump White House started to realize that those were all the things they had just shut down, there was a hue and cry and a huge pushback all over the country. And what happened? The Trump White House backed down and tried to say that, oh, this wasn't what they had meant to do, that no, Medicaid wasn't being shut off. Where'd you hear that? Yeah, tell that to the states that all day couldn't access any Medicaid payments. Again, after a hue and cry and huge pushback, they changed their mind, or rather changed their explanation and said, oh, no, we didn't mean that. Pell Grants and federally supported student loans, those won't be included. Well, they certainly appeared to be on the list this morning. But then after the hue and cry and the pushback, they tried to say, oh, no, they never were. The White House apparently had no idea what was going to turn off when they flipped that switch today.
I know exactly what Rachael Maddow's talking about. The switch to turn her network off, the switch to turn Rachael Maddow off. Turn her off. I beg of you people, stop watching MSNBC. It's the Democratic National Committee's personal network. Stop it. They're full of sugar. I mean, is it really sugar? But I'll tell you one thing. If you don't stop watching, it's going to make you sick to your stomach and worry you till no end. That's just how it works. I love you, my brothers and sisters. There's more to come, but I want you to know the truth.
Absolutely. There's no doubt President Trump has always been the hardest working man in politics. I think that's been proven over the past week. This president has again signed more than 300 executive orders. He's taken historic action. I gaggled aboard Air Force One to mark the first 100 days of this administration, 4 p.m. last Friday, or first 100 hours rather. And this president did more in the first 100 hours than the previous president did in the first 100 days. So President Trump, I think you can all expect for him to continue to work at this breakneck speed, so I hope you're all ready to work very hard. I know that we are. Zeke Miller.
Thanks, Caroline. A question that we've asked your predecessors, both parties in this job. When you're up here in this briefing room speaking to the American public, do you view yourself and your role as speaking on, advocating on behalf of the president, or providing the unvarnished truth that is, not to lie, not to obfuscate to the American people?
I commit to telling the truth from this podium every single day. I commit to speaking on behalf of the President of the United States. That is my job. And I will say it's very easy to speak truth from this podium when you have a president who is implementing policies that are wildly popular with the American people, and that's exactly what this administration is doing. It's correcting the lies and the wrongs of the past 4 years, many of the lies that have been told to your faces in this very briefing room. I will not do that. But since you brought up truth, Zeke, I would like to point out, while I vowed to provide the truth from this podium, we ask that all of you in this room hold yourselves to that same standard. We know for a fact there have been lies that have been pushed by many legacy media outlets in this country about this president about his family, and we will not accept that. We will call you out when we feel that your reporting is wrong or there is misinformation about this White House. So yes, I will hold myself to the truth, and I expect everyone in this room to do the same.
And Caroline, just on a substantive question, yesterday the White House Office of Management and Budget directed across the board freeze, with some exceptions for individual assistance, we understand, to federal grants. It's caused a lot of confusion around the country among Head Start providers, among providers services to homeless veterans, Medicaid providers, states saying they're having trouble accessing the portal. Could you help us clear up some of the confusion, give some certainty to folks, and also is that uncertainty, how does that uncertainty service the president's voters?
Well, I think there's only uncertainty in this room amongst the media. There's no uncertainty in this building. So let me provide the certainty and the clarity that all of you need. This is not a blanket pause on federal assistance and grant programs from the Trump administration. Individual assistance, that includes, I'm not naming everything that's included, but just to give you a few examples, Social Security benefits, Medicare benefits, food stamps, welfare benefits, assistance that is going directly to individuals will not be impacted by this pause. And I want to make that very clear to any Americans who are watching at home who may be a little bit confused about some of the media reporting. This administration, if you are receiving individual assistance from the federal government, you will still continue to receive that. However, it is the responsibility of this president and this administration to be good stewards of taxpayer dollars. That is something that President Trump campaigned on. That's why he has launched DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency, who is working alongside OMB. And that's why OMB sent out this memo last night, because the president signed an executive order directing OMB to do just this. And the reason for this is to ensure that every penny that is going out the door is not conflicting with the executive orders and actions that this president has taken. So what does this pause mean? It means no more funding for illegal DEI programs. It means no more funding for the Green New scam that has cost American taxpayers tens of billions of dollars. It means no more funding for transgenderism and wokeness across our federal bureaucracy and agencies. No more funding for Green New Deal social engineering policies. Again, people who are receiving individual assistance, you will continue to receive that. And President Trump is looking out for you by issuing this pause because he is being a good steward of your taxpayer dollars.
Thanks, Caroline.
Sure.
How long is this pause going to last, and how is the Trump administration recommending that organizations that rely on federal funding make payroll, pay their rent in the meantime?
It is a temporary pause, and the Office of Management and Budget is reviewing the federal funding that has been going out the door. Again, not for individual assistance, but for all of these other programs that I mentioned. I also spoke with the incoming director of OMB this morning, and he told me to tell all of you that the line to his office is open for other federal government agencies across the board, and if they feel that programs are necessary and in line with the president's agenda, then the Office of Management and Budget will review those policies. I think this is a very responsible measure. Again, past 4 years, we've seen the Biden administration spend money like drunken sailors. It's a big reason we've had an inflation crisis in this country, and it's incumbent upon this administration to make sure, again, that every penny is being accounted for honestly.
Why impose this pause with so little notice? Why not give organizations more time to plan for the fact that they are about to lose, in some cases, really crucial federal funding, at least for a period of time?
There was notice. It was the executive order that the president signed. There's also a freeze on hiring, as you know, a regulatory freeze, and there's also a freeze on foreign aid. And this is, again, incredibly important to ensure that this administration is taking into consideration how hard the American people are working. And their tax dollars actually matter to this administration. You know, just during this pause, DOGE and OMB have actually found that there was $37 million that was about to go out the door to the World Health Organization, which is an organization, as you all know, that President Trump, with the swipe of his pen in that executive order, is no longer wants the United States to be a part of. So that wouldn't be in line with the president's agenda. DOGE and OMB also found that there was about to be 50 million taxpayer dollars that went out the door to fund condoms in Gaza. That is a preposterous waste of taxpayer money. So that's what this pause is focused on, being good stewards of tax dollars.
So this doesn't affect Meals on Wheels or Head Start or disaster aid?
Again, it does not affect individual assistance that's going to Americans.
To follow up on Nancy, do you think there will be a list of who is affected and how much money is affected? How will these contractors and organizations know if they are actually having their funding frozen? And then secondly, if you're willing, can you just clarify, is the end goal of this to essentially challenge Congress or to prove that the president can withhold federal funding? In other words, is this an attempt to pick a fight to prove that he can do this?
No, absolutely not. It says right here in the memo, which I have, and I'd encourage all of you to read it. It says the American people elected President Trump to be the president of the United States. We gave him a mandate to increase the impact of every federal dollar. This memo requires federal agencies to identify and review all federal financial assistance programs and supporting activities consistent with the president's policies and requirements. The American people gave President Trump an overwhelming mandate on November 5th, and he's just trying to ensure that the tax money going out the door in this very bankrupt city actually aligns with the will and the priorities of the American people.
Yes. Welcome. You look great. You're doing a great job. You talked about transparency, and some of us in this room know how just transparent President Trump has been the last 5 or 6 years. I think you'll do the same. My question is, do you think this latest incident with the president of Colombia is indicative of the global, powerful respect they have for President Trump moving forward, not only to engage in economic diplomacy with these countries, but also world peace?
Absolutely. I'll echo the answer that the president gave on Air Force One last night when he was asked a very similar question by one of your colleagues in the media. This signifies peace through strength is back. And this president will not tolerate illegal immigration into America's interior. And he expects every nation on this planet, again, to cooperate with the repatriation of their citizens who illegally entered into our country and broke America's laws. Won't be tolerated. And as you saw, the Colombian government quickly folded and agreed to all of President Trump's demands. Flights are underway once again.
2 questions on deportations, if I may. President Trump had said on the campaign trail that he would deport pro-Hamas students who are here on visas. And on his first day in office, he signed an executive order that said, quote, the U.S. must ensure that admitted aliens and aliens otherwise already present in the U.S. do not bear hostile attitudes towards its citizens, culture, government, institutions, or founding principles. So should we take this executive order as Trump saying he would be open to deporting those students who are here on visas but, hold pro-Hamas sympathies?
The president is open to deporting individuals who have broken our nation's immigration laws. So if they are here illegally, then certainly he is open to deporting them. And that's what this administration is hard at work at doing. We receive data from DHS and from ICE every single day. From what we hear on the ground, ICE agents are feeling incredibly empowered right now because they actually have a leader in this building who is supporting them in doing their jobs that they were hired to do, which is to detain, arrest, and deport illegal criminals who have invaded our nation's borders over the past 4 years. That's what the president is committed to seeing. Peter.
Very quickly, just following up on the question on immigration first. President Trump, during the course of the campaign in 2024, said the following about illegal immigration. He said, they're going back home where they belong, and we start with the criminals. There are many, many criminals. NBC News has learned that ICE arrested 1,179 undocumented immigrants on Sunday, but nearly half of them, 566 of the migrants, appear to have no prior criminal record besides entering the country illegally. Is the president still focused exclusively, which is a civil crime, it's not criminal?
It's a federal crime.
So I'm asking though, he said he was going to focus on those violent offenders first. So is violent offenders no longer the predicate for these people to be deported?
The president has said countless times on the campaign trail, I've been with him at the rallies, I know you've been there covering them too, Peter, that he is focused on launching the largest mass deportation operation in American history of illegal criminals. And if you are an individual, a foreign national, who illegally enters the United States of America, you are, by definition, a criminal. And so therefore, you are subject to deportation.
I apologize for interrupting. So to be clear, it's not violent criminals do not receive precedence in terms of the deportations taking place.
The president has also said two things can be true at the same time. We want to deport illegal criminals, illegal immigrants from this country, but the president has said that, of course, the illegal criminal drug dealers, the rapists, the murderers, the individuals who have committed heinous acts on the interior of our country and who have terrorized law-abiding American citizens, absolutely, those should be the priority of ICE, but that doesn't mean that the other illegal criminals who entered our nation's borders are off the table.